Historic venue, Fenway. I mean, I just think that we're all really excited about this opportunity we have. And there's some challenges, certainly, with it being after Christmas, but we'll do the best we can to provide a real family environment, for our players and their families during the holiday season. But I think it's exciting, that it's so close to home, and like I said, a quality opponent, and I mean it's Fenway. I mean it's going to be awesome. So I've been smiling since it was announced, and I'm really excited. And I think our players are really excited. It's our fourth shot at against an ACC opponent, and which is rare for a Group of Five team to have five games in a season against Group of or Power Four opponents. So it's just another opportunity for us to go out there and compete against a Power Four opponent, and hopefully find a way to get a win finally.
Great. Okay, folks, we'll open for questions. Just use the raise your hand and I'll call on you, and then you can go. Don Memora, you're up first.
Hey, Jim.
Hi, Dom.
I imagine you're anticipating this one, and of course, you're uniquely qualified to speak to it. But what's your take on Bill Belichick coming back? And I know he's probably not going to be a factor in this game, but what's your take on that? You've kind of gone that route.
I think it's awesome, and I think he's going to love it. And I think he's taken it very seriously, given the fact that his first hire was Mike Lombardi, who's someone that I know very well and have a great relationship with. And Mike has been a really successful general manager in the National Football League. So, to me, that indicates that there's a real seriousness by Bill to do this right. I think if you're a good football coach, you're a good football coach. I think sometimes the Bill Belichick that people see on TV, at least when he was coaching, wasn't the guy that I've come to know over the last 20 or 30 years. He's got a great personality. He has a great sense of humor. And I think that those players will really relate to him. I think that he will get great joy out of coaching college football. I know for me, it's brought me great joy. It's the same game on the field, but it's a different energy off the field. And I think the thing that, and I don't want to put words in his mouth to project how he feels, but I know that for me, it's been so rewarding and so different than what the NFL was in a positive way. And that's not anything negative against the NFL. It's just there's just a factor to college football on dealing with this level and this age that is really rewarding as you get a little bit older in your career. So I hope he enjoys it. I know he'll be successful. He'll recruit well. He'll attack the portal, and with Mike by him, that's a powerful duo right there. Now that's a Super Bowl. That's this big time duo.
Jim, if I just follow up, you've alluded to it throughout the year that one of the things behind the success that you've had is your familiarity with this kind of a system that's coming into college football today. You're not fazed by players coming and going. Do you feel like maybe that this is going to be the way of the future for college football, that maybe this is the kind of hire that you're going to see more often?
Well, I do. And I believe that you can look at Stanford and what they did with Andrew Luck. Now, they didn't switch head coaches and bring in an NFL head coach, but they brought in a true general manager position. So now you've got a couple of programs. I'm sure there's others that are, going all in on the NFL model of organizational structure. And I think that you're going to see more and more of that. I think that it's necessary right now, the way this thing is going. And, we'll see where it goes. I know that those are thoughts that David Benedict and I have talked about is, how do we set up a structure that allows us to have the most success that we can have? And it's a discussion we have all the time, and we're working through it. And I think Dom, I do think you're going to see a lot more of this.
Thank you, Jim.
Joe Ruda, go ahead.
Hey, Jim, have you ever been to Fenway before? And I was just wondering, how much of a baseball guy are you? I know you've talked about UConn baseball before, but you an MLB guy?
I'm a sports fan. I don't sit down. I like watching the World Series. They play so many games. It's hard for me to just zero in on that. But I've been to Fenway several times. It's an awesome place to go. I made sure that my kids have been there. I was there a long time ago. I saw Carl Yastrzemski hit a home run when I was a kid. And you remember my dad coached for the Patriots. And when I would come out here, we would be able to go to some games there, and I mean, I'm excited to I've never been on a field. I'm excited to walk on that grass. I'm excited to see the green monster from the field. And I think our players feel the same way. And yeah, it's going to be awesome.
Roger Cleveland, go ahead.
Hey, Jim. I,
Roger.
I seem to remember when you first got hired, it was at the end of a season and you had a chance to kind of see what the program was like. Is that true? And how much do you
Yeah.
think that helps Bill just getting to look at the program before he takes over full control next year?
Well, I think it's going to help him. It's a little different now than it was when, even 3 years ago when I took over, in that there wasn't so much activity in the portal. I had a lot of time to really evaluate our roster, anticipate some of the moves that we might want to make. He's got to come in and really hit it hard immediately. He's got to be able to evaluate his roster. He's got to be able to make moves quick in the portal. So it's truly an advantage, though. You're not in charge of the team yet per se, or at least the activities that happen on the field. So you do have some time to remove yourself from bowl prep and practice and focus on some of the other things that you need to do to build a successful organization. And like I've said, multiple times already, having Mike Lombardi by his side is just an enormous, enormous advantage. I mean, this guy's, you guys know he's an East Coast guy. I mean, he's an amazing general manager, and to have that duo at UNC. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if there's going to be a more powerful duo. Well, shoot, Bill on his own is as powerful as it gets, but this is just something special, something really special.
And can you just talk about the importance of having extra weeks of practice for you, just getting with the players and continuing the whole growth of your program?
I think there's an advantage to it. I think sometimes it can be a little difficult when you're this far out from a game. It's not as easy to keep everyone focused on a daily basis, because there's not a task that's right in front of you. It's even different than spring or summer camp. In spring, it's 15 days, it's high intensity. In summer, you're working towards a season. These last 3 practices have just kind of been generic training camp type practices, but there's not necessarily a goal at the end of them. So, keeping everyone motivated or inspired to go out there, or, the energy up is not as easy. But when we come back next week, we're going to take a week now and let these guys, as they finish finals, go home and spend some time with their family. But when we come back next Thursday, I think that the practices will be really beneficial. Now, Roger, one thing that we were able to do, and I said this after the season when we talked about the bowl, is, our objective is to win the bowl, not develop young guys. But we've also had the chance to give young guys some work. Our practices haven't just been a bunch of young guys running around there, but we've had a chance to get them some competitive work, not just scout team work. So, we've done the best we can to take advantage of this extra time.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Graham.
Hey, Coach. I
Hi,
wanted
Graham.
to ask about, Freddie Kitchens being the interim at UNC, and them having some guys enter the portal. How does that change the preparation on your end? Or, do you look at the team any differently than you have, throughout the regular season?
No, I think Freddie called the plays, so I don't think that's going to change much. At least that's, my understanding right now. To be really honest, we haven't necessarily started in earnest preparing for UNC. We've been working the portal and, working retainment of our players, and that's been quite a heavy task. And then just going out and practice generically. Now we've got a week as a staff to really dig into UNC, figure all of those things out, and see how we want to tack preparations for them. So it's a really interesting time, as you guys know, in college football. It's very discombobulated. I think it's really strange to have free agency, the portal, before your last game. I think it's created a ton of anxiety for players, a ton of uncertainty for players. I think as an adult, as a coach in this profession, we're more able to handle it better prepared to handle those anxieties and those pressures than the players are. So, half of the battle right now is making sure our players are getting good direction as they work to make these decisions, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah, and just to follow up, do you think that any of the portal defections that you have had so far, is that creating any sort of distraction? Like, how do you keep the guys who are still remaining, not focused on that?
Well, the only defection we've had of significance is Darrell. Everyone else is here. I mean, even if they've entered the portal, they're playing, they're practicing, they're playing. I don't know if we talked about this before, but if a guy here enters the portal and he's someone that we think is valuable, I'm not going to stop recruiting him. This is like the NFL free agency. A guy becomes a free agent, he goes out on the market. If he's a value to your team, you don't just let him go. You fight for him. So we're fighting for those guys. And to the credit of some of those guys that have gone in the portal, they're here practicing. The only one that's not is Darrell, and that's because Darrell's out on visits. He's been to Auburn, he's been to Arkansas. I'm in contact with him on a daily basis. But no, it hasn't affected us so far.
Right. Thank you.
Sure.
Joe Zone, go ahead.
Joe, you're
I think you're muted, Joe.
can't hear you, Joe. Still can't.
About now.
There you
How about
There
go.
he is. Hey, you got to start
Too many
over. We
people.
couldn't hear you.
Too many people muting me. I'm just a little bit concerned, I don't know if you are, about Christmas falling right there, like 3 days before the game. You're ramping up, you're getting ready, and then boom, that holiday that's kind of hard to ignore.
It actually, it's interesting. It lays out well for us. It's not ideal, certainly, for families that want to spend time together. But I've done this, I think, 2 or 3 other times at bowls. When I was at University of Washington playing in the Rose Bowl, we were always on site for Christmas. What we will do, Joe, is make it as family friendly as possible. Our intent right now is to travel up to Boston on the 24th after our morning practice, have a meal, have some meetings, have a chapel and a mass, have a social with the parents, and then on Christmas Day, which is a Wednesday, I believe, we'll practice in the morning. I think we have some community events, and then that evening we'll have a big, family team holiday celebration dinner. We'll have Santa, and I don't think we'll have any reindeers, but we'll have, we're going to make it special for these kids and their families. And then once that day ends, we're, Thursday, Friday, Saturday into the game. So my concern certainly is for these kids having a great experience at the bowl, and for their families feeling like they can still celebrate the holidays together. So we're doing the best we can to make that happen.
Thanks, Coach.
Sure.
Eric Dobratz, go ahead.
Coach, I was wondering if you can just talk about hitting the recruiting trail. I mean, going out on the trail after an 8-win season's got to be a lot different than it was last year. What's the buzz been like out on the recruiting trail?
To be honest with you, Eric, we haven't been out. You can't go out right now because it's all about the portal. We can't afford to have anyone on the road. And I think that's one thing that's really, really different than it was in the past, is this would be a time when, you'd be hitting all the high schools. I think if you look around the country right now, staffs are hunkering down, and they're working on retaining their players, and they're evaluating the players in the portal. It's really different. It's really strange. I'm not sure it's the most healthy thing in the world for this sport, but it is what it is, and we're going to make the best of it. So not one of our players or coaches has had an opportunity to get out on the road. And that's very, very unusual. And I would imagine that it's really difficult for high school recruits and high school coaches as well. This is a time when you start to build some of those relationships. You go into some of the playoff games, you're getting in the schools, you're spending time with the coaches. And that's just not happening right now. And I don't think it's happening anywhere in the country, and if it is, I haven't heard of it. So it's very different, very different.
Wayne, why don't you go ahead, Wayne?
Hey, Coach, could you give an injury update? I know Tui lost some time against UMass. Will he be back? And is anybody else impacted by injuries for this game?
Tui will be back. I mean, with Dow, I think I filled you guys in after the game on Dalmont. Dow's out. He broke his foot in practice Wednesday before the UMass game. So he had surgery. Um, my hope for Dow is that he's 100% for his pro day. But Tui's doing really well. I mean, it was any injuries is an injury, but it wasn't a serious debilitating injury. It's something he's working through right now. And other than that, I think we're in pretty good shape.
Sounds good. And one more thing, would it be fair to say that most of the guys, if not all the guys on your team, they would rather be preparing for a bowl game than sitting at home with the family at Christmas time? This is what they want. This is what they play for.
Without a doubt. I mean, that attitude is very alive on our team. These guys are excited. Now, this was not an easy week. I'll tell you. A lot of distractions this week. Finals, the portal. I mean, that the opening of the portal creates so much anxiety for these kids. It's hard, but I think giving them a chance. It's settled down here as the week has gone on. They've been able to focus a little bit more, but. They'd much rather be going to a bowl than finishing their final and going home. And we're all excited about this opportunity to go get win number 9. As I've said, a lot of times, and I think it's a real credit to these players, is they've been playing football here for 128 years, and now they didn't always have 12 games. Okay, so let's be fair about that. But there's only been two nine or more win seasons here in 128 years. And so I think I told those guys today, I said, you guys can do something that's pretty darn special. Won't be the first time it's been done, but it hadn't been done in a long time and it hadn't been done often. And you guys can look back with a lot of pride that you've hopefully changed the trajectory of this program for a long time to come. So I think that they're excited about all of those things.
Joe Aruda, and then we have a couple more, and then we'll be good. Go ahead, Joe.
Jim, I know you mentioned that most of the portal guys have been practicing. Do you expect them to play in the game? Are you asking them to play in the game? Like, how do you approach that? Obviously, Darrell might be a different situation.
Yeah, I would be. I don't think Darrell will play in the game. I think the others will. I mean, they're at practice, they're practicing hard. Have a great attitude. Everyone kind of gets in the portal for a different reason. Just because you get in the portal these days doesn't mean you want to leave. It might be to test your market value. It might be to see what else is out there, and it might be to leave. It might be to that you're maybe feel like there's a place that's better for you. So there's all kinds of reasons, but the guys that have gone in have indicated to me that they want to play. They want to finish this thing out, and they've also all indicated that they don't necessarily want to leave. They don't want to leave, but I mean, the way this thing's set up nowadays is if you've got a kid and he's been really successful here and a big time program that can offer him a lot of money and maybe a different opportunity comes along, then they have to listen. That's the free market, but they also realize that there's risks involved because as soon as someone goes in the portal, it's our responsibility to work hard to replace them. I think anytime a guy goes in the portal, you have to assume that he's not going to be here. And so, there's that part of it that's a little bit tricky for these guys, and they don't always understand that. So we try to explain that to them very, very clearly. And then there are guys that are going in the portal that I tell, hey, listen, I just will tell you that we're going to try to replace you, but you'll have right of first refusal. Not a lot of them didn't even know what that meant. I think it's like some old man term or something. So like one kid goes, I don't even know what that means. I said, well, here's what it means. Is if we're filling your spot before we tell someone else we'll come to you and say, hey, what do you want to do? We'll give you the option to come back before we fill your spot. So I think we're handling this whole thing the right way. I think it's really difficult. I know for a fact we're handling it with the best interests of our players in mind, also understanding the responsibility we have to this university and this fan base and our donors and supporters and this program. So it's pretty interesting, and I'm actually enjoying it, but not enjoying it, and like I said, I'm used to it. So I think you try to balance the needs of your players with the needs of your program.
And then just one last one for me. When you approach the portal on a national level to bring guys in, do you have the same approach this offseason that you did last year?
Yeah, it's been easier though, Joe, to get eyes, to get people to pick up the phone, to get people to respond. When you DM them on Twitter or Instagram, or you call them or text them. We've had probably 7 or 8, maybe 9 guys in already. We've got 4 guys here today. We have a couple more coming in tomorrow. So it's the same approach, but thankfully the reaction of those out there has been they're a little bit more quick to respond to us, which is a credit to the things that are going on here.
Okay, we'll go to Roger and then wrap it up with Dom. Go ahead, Roger.
I think you just kind of answered it, Jim. But what is the process right now for you? If you're not out on the road recruiting, are you back there in stores, just taking a lot of visit from the portal guys and reaching out to them? Is that what the process is kind of like now?
Yeah, and it's so fluid, Roger. It's practicing. We practice, but it's twofold. It's spending a lot of time with your current players, trying to help them understand their situation and their opportunities, and work them through some of the decisions that they have to make. A lot of them don't have someone that they can lean on for advice, or someone that has knowledge and experience in this space. And I think that most of these guys trust my experience, and they trust that I'll give them the right advice. So I spend a lot of time doing that, as have our assistants. At the same time, we're constantly evaluating guys as they enter the portal. I've got a backlog of, I'm not kidding you now, I've got a backlog of hundreds of players that I've got to look at in the next few days. And some of them can be real quick looks. It might be, hey, you watch 6 or 7 plays and this guy's a no-brainer, yes. And you watch a few, well, nah, he doesn't fit what we want to do. And then there's a lot that you're gonna have to study a ton of film to really feel out who they are. And then there's the part about bringing them in. We're bringing these guys in and spending time with them. We've talked, all of us on this call, so often about the culture being, important, and how dangerous the portal can be in influencing your portal. So it's really important that we bring them in here and we spend time with them. We can see what kind of football player they are on film. It's critical that we understand what kind of person they are before we open the gates to them. So that it's a lot. I mean, it's nonstop, and there is no, we're not walking down a straight line. I mean, every day it's like, I mean, it's insanity. It really, it really is. And you better keep a good sense of humor, or you're going to go crazy.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Dom, why don't you take the last one here? Whoop.
Tom, now here you are with your mute on.
You're muted, Dom.
You were like a rookie right there.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'm going to have to explain to my young colleague what right of first refusal means later. So I got to be ready for that.
Got it. I got it.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, Joe. Jim, we haven't asked actually about North Carolina. I know you don't know exactly what they're going to have by the time you get there, but from what you've seen of them, you have some common opponents. What's the challenges that they're going to pose?
I haven't watched them yet. I haven't had a chance, but I mean, I've seen them on TV, and I'm fairly familiar with them, and knowing that they're an ACC opponent, and they were coached and built by, someone that I respect a whole lot. They're going to be tough. They're going to be big. They're going to be fast. They're going to be physical. They've got a running back that, this guy, I got the depth chart here. Amari and Hampton. I mean, this guy's rushed for, 1,660 yards and 5.9 yards a carry. So I know they run the ball well. They're really big up front. I mean, they're really big. So, it's going to be an ACC opponent that's formidable, that's talented, that's big, that's physical. I would say that probably, getting Coach Belichick in there gives some of these guys a little incentive to play really, really well, because they want to impress him, And I know that, they've had a guy that went in the portal that's already pulled his name out of the portal. I wouldn't be surprised to see more of that, because initially they had, 6 of their offensive linemen that got in the portal, and I believe 3 of those were starters. I wouldn't be surprised at all if they all come back. It's a chance to get coached by a legend. Listen, I don't know where their mindset is. I know they're very, very talented. I know they can run the ball. I know they can throw it. I know they're big. I'm just concerned with our guys being in the right headspace and going out and doing what we've done all year, which is, fight like crazy. Just fight like crazy to try to get a win. And that's what we'll do. That's what you can expect from us.
Okay, great. Thank you so much today for your time, Coach.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Hey, guys, thanks everybody. And you too, Gabby. See you guys.
Take care.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye.
Thanks for doing this, Bill.
No problem, guys. I'll send out the recording for anyone who needs it, and I'll be in touch on some availability, hopefully at the end of next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
You got it.